listening to Shit Shooting 101. I'm your host, Joshua Lee. Joining us today is a master hypnotist, board-certified hypnotherapist, the #1 global expert on hypnosis, and America's most awarded hypnotist. By the end of the show, he'll have your eyes spiraling ever inward into the eternal abyss of human consciousness, getting sleepy, getting very sleepy, before awakening to the great light of self-awareness. Hollywood hypnotist Kevin Stone. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Wow. Thanks for having me, Joshua. Certainly a mouthful, I know. A lot of accolades there and a lot of stuff to speak on. But, yeah, pretty, you did it very well. Some people stumble over it, but pretty good, man.
I practiced several times. Well, jumping right in here, any power, influence, or tool has the potential for good or bad. White magic versus black magic, good medicine versus bad medicine. So I'd like to begin by exploring the negative effects of hypnosis in society and our culture before moving on to the good medicine of hypnotherapy, if that's all right with you, Kevin.
Sure. It's probably going to last us a good 10 seconds because there's really no negative. I know that the media sensationalizes movies, television. I get the phone calls all the time. I'm consulting and coaching and how it needs to be spun. And since the 1950s, we've all been programmed as a society of the dark side of hypnosis. And I'll even get into, my struggles back 26 years ago getting into this and my own family experience and what I still get pushed back on today because of the connotations of what people think about the dark side of hypnosis. There's no dark side, but like anything else in the world, everything can be used for good or evil. So can you use the applications and the modalities of hypnosis for that dark side? Yeah, sure. If people want to go there, it's really entirely up to them. But again, it's like anything else. If people make that choice, then that's the choice they're going to make. But can it be really used for that? No, it's not hocus pocus. It's not.
Well, I have magic. Several questions coming up, so I hope it goes longer than 10 seconds. This will be a very bad start.
That's fine.
So we're all exposed to various versions and degrees of hypnosis from birth. The mobile above our cribs, the soothing voices of our parents, the rocking and the lullabies. These create positive hypnotic effects. However, we also park our children in front of television screens where they become so entranced that they cannot hear their own name being called, walk in front of them and their eyes peer around, locked to the bright flashing colors of the programming machine. How do we protect our children from this negative hypnosis, and how do we correct the effects that they've already experienced?
Wow. Give me the question again. Somehow you broke up a little bit, so I didn't get the full question.
Well, I'm just basically saying the way that we put our children in front of television screens and they become like hypnotically entranced by this machine. So how do we protect our children from this negative hypnosis, and how do we correct the effects that they've already experienced? Wow.
Excellent question. Here's the thing. We go in and out of hypnosis about 1,000 times a day. It's our natural state it is. So you're absolutely correct. Watching TV, being on our cell phones daily on social media, all of this is a hypnotic effect that people aren't realizing yet or not having a negative repercussion to it yet. Or some do, because there's a lot of anxiety and stress that comes with that people are starting to figure out. But in regards to the question, just don't let them watch the TV. I tell people, especially in therapy, that you shouldn't watch television or you shouldn't watch the news or negative programming before you go to sleep, because what you're doing is you're digesting, your subconscious mind is taking in all of that negative and it's becoming a known into your mind, and so therefore your mind is going to act that out. So the simplicity to the question, to answer it, is to don't watch TV and don't watch negative programming, because everything is hypnotic. Everything has a suggestibility factor. So you have to be able to make those choices, which we all do. We have free will to make the choices to not allow that negative, become aware of the negative and not allow the negative to enter our system. Simple.
Moving on to adults, we like to believe we're elevated above the effects of hypnosis, all while being drawn in by mainstream media, the greatest mesmerizer of all systems. How do we maintain awareness of the hypnotic influence, and how can we consume news without falling victim to its hypnosis and false charms?
Right. Excellent. Yes, once again, very good. We take things for granted, and so when we think things seemingly or they have the appearance of being okay or feeling good, then therefore it is. No, it isn't. You must always be on guard. You must always be aware of what is happening around you and what that influence is and what those suggestions are. Again, this is why all of us are wearing the different types of clothing we wear, different types of jewelry. We drive different types of cars because we're all suggestible to that type of advertising and that commercialism, and therefore we end up gravitating towards those products without even thinking why. We trust the manufacturers, et cetera, because we have that belief of what we're seeing, what we're reading, that's the trust that we build. But do you really trust it? And so therefore you have to be on guard. You have to be aware. You just have to know how this process works. That's why this is a great interview and a great programming, because you're making people aware of that, and they should be. They absolutely should be, especially now in this day and age where how we live and where we live. It's extremely important to not be suggestible and to be aware of suggestibility all around us at all times.
You mentioned commercials, and I hope this question isn't becoming too repetitive, but commercials use all the psychological tricks in the book, the color associations, the right shapes, symbols, archetypes, and subliminal messages. How do commercials and advertisements hypnotize us, and is there a way to block this hypnosis when it's so ubiquitous in our daily lives?
Okay, two-part question there. So yes, absolutely, positively, the major manufacturers understand. Also, politics, by the way. I don't know if that's the next question coming up. But
yeah, you guessed it. I'm becoming predictable in my old age.
So yeah, anyone who understands the power of suggestibility and the influence of that absolutely is going to use it. So it's safe to say that all of the major manufacturers that we see on a daily, on our TVs, on our computer screens, on our phone screens, on our billboards, they understand the power of that, and the marketing agencies that they hire to help them to stay in the public view understand the power of suggestion. So you have to think to yourself for a second, why does McDonald's have to continue to advertise? We have that so ingrained into our minds. As children, we were brought there for birthday parties. McDonald's, I don't even have to mention the symbol of McDonald's, and it's automatic. Everyone's thinking about it right now. Why is that? Why does McDonald's have to continuously advertise? We see advertisements all over the time. Why do they need to do this? They don't need to do this. It's enmeshed into our brain, into our society as a good thing, positive thing, trustworthy thing. Go to McDonald's, get happy, get your Happy Meal, all of that. Why does this happen? They continue to do that because they understand the power of repetition, and they understand the power of suggestibility. So as adults, as well as children, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're humans. So we have to be constantly aware of how these processes are affecting us, and then we make the choices. Do we want these processes to affect us and continue to affect us? See, you're always in control. Even when you go into a hypnotic state, you're in control. You're always in control. As a matter of fact, when you're in hypnosis, you're more in control than you are in a conscious state. So why not continue to stay in control of what's happening around you and make the choices that are right for you and not necessarily happening to you? So I hope that answers the question.
Right. So moving on to politicians, could you explain to us how the most successful politicians and public speakers of any sort always seem to use linguistic techniques to subconsciously draw us in and persuade us through the powers of suggestion?
Well, that could take another 14 shows to get into deeply,
right?
Because there's a lot going on there with NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, sentence structure, verbiage, how they're putting it together. But we'll talk about the last two major politicians who utilized this. One pretty well known, which was the Obama administration. Lots of stories about that, lots of write-up about it. If listeners want to go Google it, you can read all about how he used he actually hired certain people to understand the language, how to produce the language, how to do what he actually did. Let's move to the last administration, which is the Trump administration. That's a natural-born hypnotist, so to speak. Now, we're all hypnotists, by the way. I just happen to be titled and papered and degreed as a hypnotist, but we're all hypnotists, and we'll get into that hopefully a little bit later in the show, and I'll explain a little more in depth of what I mean by that. However, the last administration was a natural at it because of their prior experience up to it. So he understood how to use language, how to do it in business, how to influence and manipulate and all of those things. He understood that already. So it was a natural progression in the administration. And again, if you go back, and there's a lot of stories about it too on Google as to how his quote unquote hypnotic influence was able to allow him to gain the presidency, and all of that, et cetera. So all of these things are being utilized, known and unknown. And I think that also when people fall into things that work for them, not really understanding how they work, they understand how to continue to use them in their favor.
All right. Awesome. This question is where it gets a little weird, Kevin, so please bear with me. And if you don't want to go there, I perfectly understand. But I don't know anybody from Hollywood. I don't know anybody who's met big-time celebrities, so I have to go there for my listeners' sake. It's a little long here, so we look at the Oscar Award. It's a golden god fashioned after the Egyptian god Ptah, god of craftsmen and architects. Outside the Dolby Theater where the Oscars are held, they constructed the gates of Ishtar, where outside the entrance they call the area the Babylon Court. Countless stars who have won the Oscars referring to Hollywood as Babylon. We see in movies, shows, music videos, politics, government architecture, etc. All these occultic symbols, gestures, and language being used over and over. We see continuous homages to Satan, celebrities attending spirit cookings, joining the Church of Satan, flashing continuous satanic imagery. You, being the Hollywood hypnotist, having worked with numerous celebrities, forgive me for asking, but I must, have you heard any inside information, experienced or witnessed any Illuminati or satanic involvement in any of your celebrity clients, or on the shows or production companies with which you worked? What is your opinion on this matter, if you don't mind my asking?
All of Hollywood is satanic and demonic.
I know it. I know
it, Joshua.
Confirmed.
On a serious note, look. At the end of the day, it all comes down to, for all of us, because Hollywood can produce great, wonderful, family-oriented productions. Okay, I mean, they say even Disney has corruption within the system, although it produces mass amounts of trust and all those family-oriented things that we're programmed to think about when the word Disney is conjured up into our mind. Look, it doesn't matter if it's Hollywood, it doesn't matter if it's books, it doesn't matter if it's the computer, if it's Google, whatever one is reading and digesting. My suggestions are to always analyze, always question, always try to understand the point of view or perspective that entity is coming from. Doesn't mean you have to make it your own.
Right.
So in regards to the question in Hollywood and, the negative side of what I believe the question is, what you're asking me, is it there? Of course. It's like anything else. It's like any other business. These things exist. A lot of my work, not only with the public and normal folk like myself and people who are listening, but celebrities, we're all the same people and we all have issues, and a lot of what comes out of Hollywood is what you see in the media and what you see on television and what everyone sensationalizes, addictions, all of these things that are prohibiting their lives from being 100% whole. So is that demonic? Is that evil? Absolutely, because it's taking hold of people and it's controlling them. That they're allowing that to happen. So what is my part in all of this? Is to help people to help themselves, to understand that these things are taking a hold of you and controlling you, where you really have the power to control anything it is that you want.
All that glitters is not gold.
Behind the curtain can get very ugly, but it can also be very beautiful. And a great example of that is the movie Wizard of Oz. You know, they kind of give you the insight of behind the curtain, and they give you the insight of what's going on in front of the curtain. And it's a great metaphor. It's a great metaphorical movie of life in general.
Well, I see it as a wizard who's terrifying people with this false monster. You pull back the curtain, and it's not what you think at all.
Exactly. Just like you can see how Hollywood can produce that. Is that happening? Sure. Is the other side of it happening? Absolutely. You know, it all depends on what it is that you choose to allow to be in your space. And we all have that choice. So do you want to push out the negatives and bring in the positive and keep your space positive? Absolutely, positively, as far as I'm concerned. That's why I am who I am, and why I'm able to continue to maintain who I am in this crazy world that we live in, is to continue to create that positive space and continue to reject negatives.
And not allow that wizard to prey on your fears, to manipulate you.
Exactly.
Pull back the curtain.
Because it's always lurking at the door. It's always there.
Right.
It's all around us. You know, evil is all around us constantly at all times.
And that can be a form of hypnosis in itself, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's absolutely a form of suggestibility. It's there. And some people fall into that trap. And then they don't know how to get out of it.
Okay, so I'll move along from that weirdness there. And I'll just say that... I
don't know if it's necessarily weird, Josh. I think it's very valid, you know, and a great question for people to think about and to really dig a little bit deeper into as to what the meaning of that is, because that's real. It's very real. It's not to be avoided. It's not to be, you know, just passed aside, just as of, oh, okay, if I don't understand it, then I don't need to address it. Because that's where we go in a behavioral. You know, most of us, all of us, want to take the path of least resistance and feel good all the time. They don't want to think about things like that question. I mean, that's very real. It's every day. So absolutely, it's a very valid thing. And I think everyone should ponder that and really dig deeper into it as to what that means for them.
When I used the word weird, I didn't mean it in a pejorative sense. I meant it...
I didn't think so. No, I didn't think it that way at all.
Different.
Yeah.
So
I got you 100%. I probably think your listening audience gets that as well.
And I truly appreciate you going along for the ride on that one. I actually expected you to circumvent that one.
Yeah, it's where I stand as well. You know, my life experience, not only as a therapist, you know, hypnotherapist, but my journey as well I've had to stop and think about those questions myself, because the more you want to get out of life, the more you're going to be challenged with questions just like that. Those are things that come naturally and organically when you make choices in your life to say, you know what, I want the full maximum potential of life, of what life has to offer, while I'm able to get that while I'm here. And so when you make that commitment and when you make that choice to yourself, those are things that are going to come up. So I don't know where that question came from. That's a canned question for you, or something you designed for this show. I don't know what that means for you, Josh.
It's something that I'm very interested in.
What's that?
It's something I'm very interested in myself.
Yeah, there you go. And then you're conveying that to your audience, and that's brilliant, because again, once you get to those levels of life, you're going to be asking yourself those questions. So good for you.
Right.
And good for anyone who's at that point, and good for anybody who is willing to be brave enough and to risk to get to that level of life, to ask those in-depth questions and look in the mirror and say to themselves exactly what you just said, and more, by the way.
Yeah, I like to say, find Find answer in the question and question in the answer.
Yeah, exactly. But again, the answer, I could give you the answers all day long, but those answers are from me. It's individualistic.
Right.
You know, everyone has their own journey. Everyone's on their own path, although similar. But don't make the mistake that it's the same, because it is all different, and we're all created differently. So the path is the same, but the experiences will be different.
All right. Thank you very much for that. Moving on to the good medicine of hypnotherapy, here is your opportunity to sell us on your profession.
Is that the bad, Josh?
Oh, right. As you said, there's no bad.
I think it's all good, because that's the good stuff. Okay, let's talk about the commercial stuff now, but go ahead. Go ahead with your questions. I'm ready.
Yeah, because I see the way that they use the powers of suggestibility and hypnosis can be used in a negative way to grip our minds and force us into materialism and that kind of stuff.
Who's the they, Josh?
The they would be corporate, these big wig guys who just want to empty our pockets and keep us in this debt enslavement or what have you.
There you go. Yeah, you're on the right path. There's much more to that. But yeah, you're absolutely correct. Yeah, right. But again, doesn't mean that's a negative or a bad thing. You have to be aware to recognize, and hopefully this program is helping people, to educate people, to do that, because it's free to take and it's free to do however we all choose to do it. Like I mentioned in the beginning of this program, there's good and evil in everything, and everything can be used for good or evil. It just depends on what side you want to gravitate towards.
Right.
Yeah. So again, even with this question, it becomes, what side do you choose? And if you understand and have an insight and a background to know what's happening around you and become aware of your environment, then that's on you at that point. It's your responsibility. It's all of our responsibility to know this information and to address it and not to ignore it and think it's not real, it's not there, because it is.
Right. So I wanted to allow you an opportunity to sell us on your profession and how it can help us in our lives, and I'll yield the floor to you.
Right. Well, here goes right back full circle of all hypnosis. All suggestibility is really self-hypnosis. You see, I'm the hypnotist figure, and that hypnotist figure through the ages and through the years has become, like we opened up this interview, the evil, demonic, dark side, mysterious person. That's how the media books sensationalize to get you to continue to read or watch their movie or buy their product as to how this process works, not telling you that we're all capable of doing it, because we're all doing it. We're all hypnotists. And I talked about that a little bit earlier, so I'll get a little bit more into that. We're all hypnotists at the end of the day. We're all suggestible to ourselves, and we give suggestions to our inner circle of friends and family. We don't even realize we're doing that. Some do, and they abuse that right and that privilege, or they try to monopolize on it. So understanding is power. Education is knowledge, right? So it's just about understanding what this stuff really is. So again, it's all self-hypnosis. It's all around us. It's free for the taking. It's a natural, organic state of being. And so you just have to understand how the processes work, and not only work around you, but work for you. And so that's what hypnosis does, and that's what I do as the board-certified hypnotherapist, hypnotist to the stars, whatever labels. I mean, there's so many labels that I have. I've lost track about what is, because my work is very successful. But what makes me a success is an individual understanding the process and allowing the process to work. I just act as the guide and as a facilitator to help them to get from point zero to where they want to be to success. And so how does that work? Again, I create an environment where they're relaxed and comfortable, and their mind becomes more suggestible to what they already are. And then I flood the mind with basically designer programming, because in the hypnotherapy process, we talk about what it is they want to make in their change. And so they're basically designing the suggestions during that therapy process, and all I'm doing is regurgitating and giving them those suggestions because they can't do it themselves, or they block it, or they don't understand the process. So it's kind of like this, Josh. Here's a metaphor I'm going to give you and your listening audience. We all, and I know when I was a kid, I loved to work on my car. Okay, now, did I go to school to be a mechanic? Did I set out to be a mechanic? Did I do all? No. But I learned how to do that, and I learned how to work on my car. But over time, I was following another career, I lost time, and I had to give my car to a professional mechanic to fix the car. Could I still fix the car? Absolutely. But I gave it over to him because that saved me time, it saved me money, it saved me stress, it saved me anxiety, it saved me a learning curve. So I gave it over to the expert. So that's what I am. I am the hypnotist, the label of the hypnotist. But again, what I'm up against, even to this day, even when 26 years ago I got into this profession, there was a lot of pushback. And I went into the medical field almost immediately because my private practice was across from Cedars-Sinai Hospital, world-famous hospital in Los Angeles. And so I was getting a lot of referrals from the medical people, the ones who understood it, but a lot of them didn't understand. So we were getting a lot of pushback of the people conjuring up the dark side and all of this. Well, fast forward, it's become more mainstream. A lot of the movies and whatnot, like Get Out, the recent hypnosis movie, are still sensationalizing it, but it's still allowing people to get enough interest to understand what this stuff really is and what it really isn't, and how do I utilize it for myself. And so that's the key, is really educating yourself as to how you can harness the power of a natural organic state called hypnosis or suggestibility, and utilize that for yourself. And not only utilize it for yourself, but to change your thinking, change your life. Because we all are flooded daily with that little voice inside of our head, and 90% of the time it's negative, and it's telling us we're having a bad hair day. Oh, I'm tired. And you see how you're already giving yourself the suggestions daily, and those suggestions are negative. And so therefore we're not able to get to our highest potential or reach our goals of where we want to be. So you need tools. Hypnosis is that tool to help you to overcome, block out negatives that are constantly banging at your door every single day and trying to distract you from keeping your space of where you want to be.
I try to eat healthy, but my mind constantly remains aware that their flavor is much more exciting than the piece of lettuce I'm sadly chomping on. I find it very difficult maintaining a consistent diet. So if I were to request hypnotherapy to help me stick with healthy eating and to curb cravings, how would you go about treating me? Please walk us through what such a session would look like.
I'm already going to tell you already, just by what you've already said, is to remove certain words that you're constantly talking about or saying that you don't even know. I'm trying. Get rid of it. There's no trying, there's doing. Okay?
Right.
So you said that you didn't even know you said it so casually. It's so part of our vocabulary that it becomes part of a conversation. There's already programming for you. That's why I'm giving you the insight as to your question as we go along, and I'm breaking it down for you. I'm trying. Get rid of it. I can't. Get rid of it. These are the things that we constantly talk about or say every single day, and you should probably write down every day. How many times a day do you write down or think about, I can't, I can't? Write that down. You will see it's over 100 times a day that we're repeating that phrase. And you're programming yourself that, guess what? You're not going to. Because you're programming yourself to not do it or trying. What is trying? What is it? What does that mean, Josh? what does it mean to try? I don't even know what that means.
Well, now when you put it that way, I don't know what that means either.
You see what I mean?
Yeah,
so you see how you're programming yourself.
Right.
And so this is how the process of hypnotherapy works. And with a good hypnotist or a good hypnotherapist will show you how you're thinking, what your actions are, what your structure is. And again, we're all guilty of it because we're programmed that way. That's how we are programmed from the world. And it's just repetitive, and it's handed down from our parents, from their parents, and it just keeps getting handed down. And then we're stuck because we're not taught how to unlearn these negative things that have built up and blocking us from achieving our highest potential in life. There's no system in schools. Nobody focuses on it, but programs like this. And so that's what gets people thinking as to, well, how can I change these things? Everybody can change it. We all can. We all have that choice. It's all there. It's all available. It's all knowledge. And it's, again, what you choose to utilize in your life to get to your highest potential, your maximum potential, where you want to be in life. Because at the end of the day, Josh, we're all the same. Every single one of us, and we all have the same opportunities. So when you talk about Jeff Bezos, when you talk about the President of the United States, you talk about these people, and you think, my goodness, how do these people get to be who they are? What special ability, celebrities, right? You talked about this earlier in the program. What is it about the celebrities? What is it about these people? What is it about, these people that they get to do those things? Because they set out to do those things. They put a system in place. They decided very early on in life or very late in life that this is what they want to do. And then they sought out the right people, the right coaches, the right therapists, and the right people to help them to achieve their ultimate goals and potentials in life, and they utilize their gifts of what they have, and you have to understand what your gifts are as well, and they utilize them to become who they are, and that's why they reach those highest potentials. And that's why we sit back, common people sit back and go, and they emulate, and they go, wow, those people are amazing. They're special people. They're not. They're just like you and me. And same with me. I'm the Hollywood hypnotist, right? I didn't name myself that. That's what I've become. I was dubbed by a national talk show, and because I was dubbed and crowned and went through the whole sword ceremony kind of visions I get of this is who you are, this is what who I've become. But at the end of the day, I'm just like anyone else. I've just allowed myself and made the right choices in life to continue to excel and get the most out of life that I can while I'm here of the time that I have. And it's not over. There's more to come. And again, I, like everyone else, like to look at certain celebrities and inspired and admire them, like Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. Just, again, look at his biography, look at his history, look at where he's gone. He'll tell you the same thing. He's a very humble man. He tells you basically his rooting, where he is, where he's at, and where he's going to continue to go. Because he still has amazing aspirations because of what life has to offer. And so we all have those choices. We all have that ability. Why are you not utilizing it?
As you're explaining that in the beginning, it reminds me of, in Buddhism, the Noble Eightfold Path of right speech, right action, right mind. I can't remember the rest of them.
Right, exactly. But again, it's aligning yourself with the right tools, deciding what you want to do, and aligning yourself with the right tools. Just like if I want to be a carpenter, well, I need to get a box of tools and good tools to continue to be a successful carpenter. So that's a basic metaphor. So if I'm doing anything in life, I want to be president of the United States, I want to be a celebrity, I want to be a rock star, I want to be whatever. Okay? You have to set yourself up, plan out your strategy, put the right people around you, and move forward. Because, by the way, we can't do it by ourselves. Nobody is capable. No one is 100% can do that by themselves. You need others. This is how this world works. We need others to help ourselves. Right. And so why not align yourself with the people in your circle of where you want to be?
You've worked with...
I might be getting too deep and too much into this.
Oh, no. You can't get too deep on this show. That's very appreciated.
Yeah.
Something not so deep. You've worked with professional athletes. Me in my youth, I was very athletic and probably could have went pro if it wasn't for the fact that I'm slow, can't jump, no coordination, and have a very poor work ethic. That's a joke. What is it you do for professional athletes, and what in-game improvement have you witnessed with your athlete clients post-therapy?
Your description of yourself, Josh, was reminding me of the Tom Brady's issue when he started out, but we'll move on from that. And you see where he is.
Right.
See, with athletes, what you discovered, I would think, is that you understood your limitations at some point, and you understood your aspirations or where you wanted to be as an athlete. You didn't have it. You didn't have enough to sustain, to go professional or whatever you wanted to do. What I focus on is people who are either athletes, celebrities, or whatever they decide that they want to become. They're going in that direction because they understand their gifts. So what we do is we enhance the gifts, and we allow that to really take over for them to become who they are. Because a lot of what happens is people get in conflict about the gift or their ability that's unusual amongst anyone else. And so, again, in our society, especially with athletes, right, we go through the system of schools, and generally what ends up happening is some of them get bullied for it, some of them get slammed for it. There's always going to be haters out there. So they're always dealing with that psychology aspect of it to wrap their heads around, is this a good thing that I'm doing, or is it a bad thing? And so when it comes to the question, specifically, when you reach pro athletes, and that's the work that I do and the people I work with, I help them to continue to focus on the gift. And a lot of it is, again, for focus and concentration. For example, for basketball, it'll be for free throw shots. Because what ends up happening, you have to think about this, visualize and imagine for a second. You're the pro athlete. It's your turn to do the foul shot. So what's on the other side of the net is the opposing team. They're trying to distract you, make noise, do all kinds of things to prohibit you from making that shot, because it could be the points that your team needs to win that game. Everyone knows this. So what's the other team's objective is to make sure you don't make these free throws. So a lot of them want to block out the distractions. A lot of them want to be able to just focus, make the basket bigger, be able to freely throw, those kind of things. Those kind of things that we work on to continue to enhance the ability and the skill of the athlete. And that also goes for any profession. That's what I do as a therapist.
Yeah, sticking with basketball, I noticed that it's not only a problem of the distraction of the crowd or the opposing team, it's also a distraction of their own thoughts, because if they're left open for too long, they invariably miss the shot. They always miss it if they're left open for too long, because it seems as if their own mind is what distracts them from the shot.
That's what all of us do, by the way. We all get in the way of ourselves. Remember we talked about that a little bit earlier in the program? That negative voice inside of our head, or that voice inside of our head. Sometimes we don't even want to address it as negative, but it's that voice that's constantly doing repetitive negative suggestions. Just like we talked about a little bit earlier when you said, I'm trying to eat healthy. What do you mean you're trying? Either you're doing or you're not doing. So you see how that works. And so it works the same way in any profession, whether it be sports or, movie stars, whatever.
Right. Hypnos was the Greek god who represented sleep. Why do you think we dream? Are we being hypnotized by our own brains during sleep? And is there a way of utilizing self-hypnosis for life improvement during sleep?
Okay, Josh, you keep asking me these dual reality questions. So I'll try to answer it. It's a two-part question, by the way. So let's get to hypnosis, right? Yes, dreams influence our reality. Some people say, well, I don't dream. I don't remember my dreams. Well, you do dream, because if you didn't dream, then you would be put into a medical facility. Right. Because that's how they brainwash, and that's how, anyway, not to get too deep into it, but yes, we all dream. We have to dream, because during that process, we are taking in the information from the day, and our mind is processing the information through the REM state to allow us to continue to become suggestible to whatever that information is. That's why I said earlier, be very careful of how you program your mind before you go to sleep. Only flood it with positive programming. Don't watch the news. Don't watch television. We talked all about that in the beginning of the program. Don't watch negatives. Continue to allow yourself to be positive. That way your mind is processing positive while you're sleeping. And even back in the 70s and 80s, they had subliminal taping and all this, and they found it not to be so successful. But does it work? Absolutely, because the systems weren't as refined back then, but nowadays they are. So absolutely, positively, you're being programmed while you're sleeping. It's important of what information you're putting into your mind prior to the sleep process. Second part of the question was the self-hypnosis, correct?
Right.
Okay. Everything I just described to you is the self-hypnosis, but there is a refined system on how to do that self-hypnosis. And at the end of this program, and I'm going to make all of your listeners, I'm going to give an offer away and all that. We'll talk all about that when we get to the information part of it, because I'll teach you the system and how to do it properly, so that way you're able to allow that power to work for you and not be counterproductive. So yes, the self-hypnotic process is super important every single day, of what you're talking and how you're talking to yourself, and blocking the negative influences that all are around us all day. Yes, absolutely.
I heard you being interviewed on another program. Oh, there's that word, programming. But you spoke of the number 21, that the word should be repeated 21 times for a hypnotic effect. Am I remembering that correctly?
Absolutely, yeah. 21 is not my number. 21 is a number they came up with, scientists did, back in 40s, 50s. And it was a testing with Pavlov's dog. And this is how they were trying to understand human behavior through animals, and this happened to be with the dog. Well, the testing goes briefly is the dog would not be hungry unless he heard a bell ring. Only the dog would be hungry and salivate when the bell would ring. No bell, the dog wouldn't be hungry, and it was trained that way, so they understood behavior from that way. So they said, well, how many times did this take? Again, you can read about Pavlov's dog and everything. Everything can be Googled. It's all right there for more in-depth information. I'm just kind of giving you the Reader's Digest version of it. Basically, 21 times was that magic number that the scientists came up with, that they understood repetition and repetitive behavior. Once it's established 21 in a row, it now becomes an automatic in the mind, and so therefore the mind is going to respond, and that's positive or negative. So it doesn't matter to mind, by the way. Mind does not think for itself. All behavior is learned behavior. So if we learn it, guess what? We can unlearn it. But we're not taught tools. Like I said, in our school systems, in our traditional world, we're not taught these tools. Hypnosis is that tool to change the behavior. And so 21 times generally is the magic number of where it's going to become permanent. Now, that number fluctuates, again, depending on individuality. So that number could be faster for some people, or it could take up to 21. So it all depends. But 21 is generally is what they've decided upon as to how to change conditioned behavior.
Yeah, when I heard you say 21, I have a fascination with numerical patterns. And so when I heard 21, I started thinking about all the places that I see 21 happening. And I wrote some things down. It's just for my own interest. And I apologize if I bore anybody, but I got to do it. It's a compulsion. There's the 21 gun salute, agenda 21, 21 dots on a die. We play an ancient game that we now call blackjack, or otherwise known as 21. Drinking age went from 18 to 21, and the 18th Amendment was repealed by the 21st Amendment, which ended prohibition. There's the movie 21 Jump Street, the band 21 Pilots, 21st Century Fox, the game show 21, which exposed the rigging of game shows in the 50s. 21 grams is the weight of the human soul. 21 is 7 times 3, so the number 21 contains the Trinity, as well as the number of the ethereal planes to existence, or 3 being the creative principle and 7 being the resting period of creation, all contained within number 21, this magical, mystical number. And as we see this number being repeated all over societal structure, it seems someone out there has a keen understanding of its power. Just food for thought.
Yeah.
There's someone out there right now who's saying, if that's food for thought, then my thoughts are starving to death. What the hell was that?
Well, again, Joshua, you open up a door that's fascinating because, again, there's so much power behind numbers. Even biblically, numbers represent certain things biblically. But, yeah, you just opened up an amazing door. If people want to go walk down that rabbit hole, it's amazing to see and what your eyes will be open to when it comes to numbers. So I'm just going to throw out 1111. And anytime you come across that or you think you're seeing it on a clock or a digital clock, it has meaning. So 1111. I'm not going to get into it. We're not going to talk about it because there's nothing to do with this program. But you open up that door. So 1111 has some power too, and all of that. So anyway, yeah, you're on the right path. Absolutely.
Well, that's actually what makes me so fascinated by it, because 11s and 33s have followed me, my family, and even my girlfriend throughout our lives. So I'm just always interested in numbers and where they repeat and whatnot.
There you go. Yeah. Google 1111. You'll see a lot of history on what that means, what it's about, all that kind of thing. And like I said, probably another program for another day. But yeah, it's fascinating stuff. Numbers are fascinating, and they do have meaning.
So, wrapping it up, I'd like to understand the timeline of hypnosis over the course of history. When did hypnosis begin as a practice? Can you walk us through the history of hypnotism and how it has evolved? And in closing, how is your practice different than other hypnotherapists? Okay.
Again, two-part question. You love these two-part questions.
I do. I'm sorry.
One question at a time, Josh. It can confuse the person you're interviewing, but I'm on point with you. Hypnosis has been since the beginning of time. I don't even know how simply to say that. It's been there. It's like I said, it's a natural, organic state. When did people start to harness it and understand the power behind it? Since the beginning of man, and biblical. You can get into, again, we can open that door slightly and let people explore for themselves. Biblically, right from the beginning of time, right from the first chapter in the Bible, you can already start to see how hypnosis and suggestibility is prevalent and all around us. Throughout the years, of course, people started to study it more and more, became professional at it, and understood it and started to teach people. Then we get up to the time of Braid's era, 1940s, 50s, Braid, people who were very instrumental in making it mainstream. Freud was involved with it as well. All of these people had a huge impact and wanted to explore it even more, which made it more mainstream, more commercial. Then there was Anton Mesmer, who, again, I'm just throwing stuff out there so people can do research for themselves because we don't have enough time in this program to get into the history and the depth of it. But this is kind of the loose timeline of getting it up to the point of where we are today with it. So all of these, I stand on the shoulders of giants in the work that I do because I am a historian. I'm also passionate about this modality, and it's changed my life. And as well, again, I've been doing it 26 years, watched it change hundreds and thousands of people's lives just by utilizing a natural organic process and being taught the process. Second part of the question was, how do I use it for myself, or is it why am I different?
Yeah, how are you different from other hypnotherapists? And as I was asking it, I realized, why did I put those questions in the same question? So I apologize for that.
It's okay. It's okay. I think what makes me different and why I've become that guy or the go-to that Hollywood goes to, or the world for that matter, is because, again, my passion behind it, my constant questioning as to how to make this better, how to continue to make it better. My modalities, my system, my programming, of course, comes from traditional, like Freud and all, Mesmer and all those guys. Again, the basic simplicity of hypnosis is simple, but you can build upon that like anything else in life. And what I've done over the years is I've improved upon, after seeing so many hundreds of thousands of patients and people, I've improved upon the process and allowing this modality to work for them instead of it rejecting, or our mind rejecting it. So I think that's what makes me different. That's what separates me from other people doing this profession. It's my drive. It's my passion. It's something that I'm still fascinated about after 26 years of how it still completely works, because there is no 100% understanding as to how. Somebody asked directly, how does this stuff work? I can't give you a direct answer. There is no direct answer. It works. If you do the process and you allow the process, it works. And so that's the easiest answer I can give you. But for me, my drive, continuing to explore, to go deeper with it, and to push the limits of what it is why I think, and what makes me different from everybody else, and why I've earned the titles.
Is there anything you want to add that I haven't asked in my 2, 3, 4-part questions thus far?
No. I think that your questions are very good. You've covered a lot of great things. It's going to start making people think and examine themselves, and to seek and search out the people who can help them to become who they want to become in life.
That's what we're trying to do here.
Excellent.
Any plugs, promotions, products? Where can my listeners find you?
Okay, well, I'm easy to find. My website is hypnotist.com, hypnotist.com. All kinds of great information on there, as you know, Josh, because you've gone there, you've done your research. That's why I was doing this interview. There's a lot of great information on there about hypnosis. There's a tab on there where you can, all the questions common questions that people have about hypnosis is right there, and I answer all the questions right there. The website has a lot of great information on there, a lot of free information on there, hypnotist.com. If you have any other questions, you can email me directly from there. I do answer on my own emails. I might not get back to you right away, but I will get back to you. And for this programming, so I think we're wrapping up, right, Josh?
Right.
For this programming today, this is what I'm going to do for your listeners, as I promised earlier. For 1 week, when this program airs, and of course I'm going to know that because you're going to send me the programming so I can hear it myself. So 1 week that the program is aired, from the point it has aired, for 7 days, I'm going to offer and give all of the listeners a free self-hypnosis programming system, value $175, free for the asking. What you have to do is you have to email me from the website, hypnotist.com, put in the subject line, you listen to this program, and you want to take advantage of the free programming. I then am going to send you an MP3 format of the programming system of self-hypnosis to take yourself in and out of self-hypnosis, so you can utilize that as a tool in your life to achieve what it is that you want, everything we've been talking about in this program. But that will only be available for 7 days from the airing of this programming. And again, we'll know when that is, so you can't contact me 2 months from now or 3 weeks later and go, oh, I listened to the program. Can I take advantage of the programming? No, it's a $175 programming system. If you want to buy it, you can buy it. But we're giving it away free for being on this programming and to show our gratitude for Josh and everyone listening to this programming.
Very awesome. Very cool stuff. Yeah, I urge everybody to go take advantage of that. And I thank you sincerely for being on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure. Very interesting, very intriguing stuff. Thanks for coming on.
Definitely humbled, and I appreciate being on this program, and I'm sure we're going to talk again soon, Josh.
All right, you take care.
You too.
Hollywood hypnotist Kevin Stone, everybody. Very interesting stuff. I have to confess to my listeners out there, I went into this podcast with a bit of an agenda. I didn't want to ask the basic general questions that most interviewers present to Kevin. Instead, I wanted you all to leave this podcast looking at your world a little differently, recognizing the influences over your mind. I want you to watch television more alertly. I want you to remain ever aware of the hypnotic effects of movies, media, music, and politics. You can allow hypnosis to be used against you, or you can use it for yourself by yourself and eliminate the electronic hypnotist swinging the pocket watch before your eyes, lulling you into a sleep state. Only you have the power to awaken yourself from the influence of the systematic hypnosis plaguing the collective conscious. Put down the cigarette, put down the double bacon cheeseburger, put down the remote, the iPad, and the cell phone. Pick up your child, drag them away from the hypno box, and introduce them to their own minds for once. The countdown from 10 is over. The fingers have snapped. It's time to awaken. Thanks for tuning in. Love, peace, happiness. Signing off.